welcome back to Empires of Aether, the next great turn-based strategy board game that allows you to wield the power of an element of your choosing, vying for control of a new power, a new element, Aether. It's been a while, but those words come out just as easy. I've had a hunger, a vicious reawakening of the elements within my girdle. And it's time to come back to the table. It's time to come back. And with that, let's change some things. Let's make this incredibly complex, asymmetrical game a little more palatable, shall we? When we last left you a couple of years ago, we reformatted how you're actually earning win conditions in the game. No longer are we utilizing win conditions. No, we've shifted to a new victory currency, victory points, with achievements of how to access those points. We also left you with the 16th and final element, Shadow. I'm here to say, many games have been conducted during this summer season. Some balancing has already gone into effect. Shadow, nerfed already. Kind of surprised it needed it, but it was juicy. But the one that I need to publicize is one that has been out here a little bit longer, and that's Sun. And yours truly, the architect, was cooking in the lab not too long ago. This is within a couple weeks. Sun was really weak. Really, really weak. But a light bulb went off in my head. A light bulb went off in my head of how to make it work. And boy, did it. 3 undisruptible games in which victory was achieved before Aether hit the board. 2 games winning at turn 5, 1 happening at turn 6. Sun. A doozy. So what do we change? What do we change? Just a couple of things for now. The biggest offender is actually their tier 1 movement ability. We'll talk about that. But on your big card, the biggest thing you're going to see is your star tile economy has been altered. Instead of a bonus 3 food, 3 BM on your star tiles, we're going to change that to 2. Okay? That's not too big of a hit, right? Still prioritize them, absolutely. Get those relics early on. But what you were able to do with the spell Rise was just send Helios out to the middle of the board. Rise to star tile 1 in your corner on turn 1. Rise to the Elemental Temple on turn 2. Go ahead and hit set to get your Rise ability back to accessible for Helios on turn 3, and you simply jump to any of the other star tiles on the opposing side of the board, have a massive economic boost, plant something on the enemy's turf that is very hard to disrupt, because that was back when their landmark couldn't be attacked until you were tier 3. Their monuments, rather, I should say, reliquary. We've tweaked some things in that verbiage as well. But Rise now specifically gets 1 use for Helios, 1 use for Iris. This is a massive hit for them. It is a very, very big hit for them. It prevents you from getting 2 relics by turn 2. And as you can tell, the beacon, if you got that as the first relic, God forbid if you got it as the second relic, if it was either of the first 2, disgusting results. Disgusting spiderwebbing on the board. Had to nip it. Their economy is not the strongest in the game, but the fact that they don't have to invest into getting to tier 2 is such a massive boon that when they were already getting 3 soldiers for free courtesy of the beacon, bad things were happening. And that wasn't even in the framework for the victory. I wasn't even counting on beacon even landing in my lap in those games. It just happened 1 or 2 of those times, and it simply made the job too easy. No. Rise was too powerful when put on 1 general. Like I said, we did tweak the text of the reliquary. The text that was on a few of the monuments that you couldn't be attacked until 3, I liked that text for a bit. We'll talk a little bit on how the game has shifted with this new victory point earning. The game is very close to a good state right now. I've got aggressive nations winning. I've got turtle nations winning. It's very, very friendly balance. There's some nations that are clinging to the bottom of the drain here. That yes, we'll work on them in due time. But the text that some of these tiles couldn't be attacked until tier 3 turned out to be too powerful. When certain elements had 1 or 2 advantage cards go their way, or a weather event go their way, or the opposite, or the opponent that they were going after had something not go their way, it simply was too insurmountable for them, too powerful. I wanted that text to be more of a defensive line, right? I don't want my star tile taken on my turf, right? This is important for me. It simply was too powerful. I think you've got to protect your own land using your knowledge of the game, not text to save ya. But on top of that, their quest, defending the light, was a guaranteed 5 victory points with the current setup of the game. So the question was, do we boost the relics or do we lower the VP earned by the quest? I, for now, have opted to decrease the VP. This does put them still on a threshold to kill a couple of bosses, fight for Aether, and still access that 10 victory point win condition. They might have to be a little more creative with it. Because just getting to tier 3 and killing 2 boss monsters alone is going to do it. The question is, do they get enough firepower to kill those 2 boss monsters in their corner faster than some of the other elements? What we have also done in terms of the balancing, right? When we brought some other elements down to the levels of the mid-tier elements, I noticed that the original 4 were just dominating. On top of that, it was just anyone with dice roll bonuses was dominating. So really, I put a ceiling on every dice roll bonus. Some of our elements, specifically our more defensive elements, water and earth, no longer have defensive dice roll bonuses on their big card. They didn't even need it to win. They still don't. Water and earth are still dominant. They're going to need some further touching on. But things like fire and poison, where the attacking dice roll is crucial to them having viability in the mid to late game, I kept it on their big card, but put a ceiling on it. And fire actually has the highest ceiling, have a max of +4. Most elements have a max of +2, right? So you do have to still get that man advantage. But I know this next one is going to bring a lot of joy to many. And that is finally the neutering of sand. The neutering of sand. We've arrived. You've survived. We have arrived to the promised land. The oasis, if you will. Sand, I didn't know how to tame you. And to be fair, I may be hitting you with the Nerf hammer a little too hard this day. But if I never see what I witnessed last night happen again, I'll die a happy man. I'll die a happy man. This element was doing disgusting things at every turn position, whether you were 20-20 or 10-10. It was killing nations without a desert in its corner and still getting to tier 3 by turn 5. Still getting its oasis by turn 3 or turn 4. Losing battles and still accessing its higher tier advantages. That's just not... That's not what Aether should be. I should be punished when I'm going into losing skirmishes. I should be punished hard. I shouldn't be getting rewarded with Oasis in the middle of a fruitless sand pit. So what have we done? The 5/5 bonus from getting 3 deserts, gone. Too easy to access, gone. We removed a very similar bonus on the Shadow Nations big card as well. We've gone from 5 deserts to get the Oasis to 6 deserts. Does that mean that you have to take their monument in order to access it? It's pretty close. It's getting very close. It's going to be very rare for you to have 2 or 3 deserts in your corner already, just with the construct of the game, let alone whether or not it gets through the ban phase. 6 deserts is a big ask, but I do think you have to take your monument to get it realistically. And then now their tier 3 passive, instead of unlimited movement through deserts, is now only a 2-tile movement. I can move through one desert without it halting, forcing the Sand Nation to have to be a little more strategic, a little more critical with where those pyramids are getting placed in the late game, right? They shouldn't be dancing around every boss tile on the board and getting to Aether all in the same turn. Disgusting. Disgusting element. Who made you? Who made you? I did. I created that monster. I'm not ashamed to say it. But actually, one of the abilities that was facilitating this so seamlessly was a card that the impression here is that, of course, is a direct quote from Star Wars, right? We're trying to make a more aggressive sand build here, but in turn what it did was it just made them able to skirmish, lose battles, and still access their mid-game economic spike. Disgusting. So the Tusken Raider Tier 1 ability has now gone dark once you leave Tier 1. The goal is to stay aggressive in the early stages of the game and stay there, right? So I sacked that ability, made it to where it is useless post Tier 1, but I give you a little buff on, and not just the min. Gave you a little buff on that frame to maybe make it more viable to stay in Tier 1. We'll see. We'll see. You only want to go to Tier 2 when you're really ready to put your pedal to the metal. But then the Great Sphinx, what I've done here is, aside from mirroring the text we've done with all the monuments, we'll show that here in a moment to reflect what the current definition of a monument is, the movement bonus is now gone from the Great Sphinx. No, you do not get to traverse your entire half of the map starting turn 3. So sorry, you sand players. So sorry. In the Fire Realm, as we did put a ceiling on the dice roll bonus, one thing that was too powerful was Fire in the early stages having access to their Phoenix at all 3 tiers for only 1 ability. It is now going to cost 2 Tier 1 abilities. It's not terrible. It's still very, very strong in that 10-10 or 13-13 formats. But is it a must-take in every game now? Absolutely not. Had a lot of success moving away from it, playing Fire in that 16-16, 13-13 range, not using Phoenix, and doing just fine, A-OK, prioritizing that volcanic economic gameplay. With that being said, to make volcanoes a little less accessible to where you just get your +4 dice roll bonus every single time, Expanded Territory no longer is going to turn your start tile into a volcano. It is going to remain the identity of which you purchase it. Still tremendous when you're getting those early game skirmishes, right? Getting all that food, getting your battle cries, fighting for those start tiles. What I was able to do with it last night was get my quest early, trial by combat, farm those fights in the Tier 2 range. I'm just milking food. I'm just milking food. It's like turn 5 and I got 40 food in the bank. I'm slapping armies down like it's nobody's business. Nobody could hang. Nobody. But by removing this volcano from Expanded Territory, it forces you to have to take Ring of Fire as well in that Tier 2 slot to make it less of an economic powerhouse by taking Secondary Succession and Heated Development right next to it. This one is not even a nerf. It's actually an understood mechanic, right? In the lore that we're all briefed on, right? We've all read the lore. We were expecting the general to have to be adjacent here, so we're just put some clarifying text on a couple of things. We did the same for some advantage cards as well, as the game has changed to make it a little more user-friendly, right? We made these advantage cards all at different stages of the development of this game. And so we just wanted to make things a little more uniform. So you'll notice some cards are reading a little bit differently the next time you load up this game. But now we've also changed the text of what monuments are. Monuments are free. I think they're a very, very cool mechanic. Really, really cool builds revolving around them. In fact, I believe this is the first time we are viewing the air monument here. Air, out of the original 4 elements, wasn't hanging too great. In Season 1 was a pick or ban and was just dominating our competitive landscape, if you will. And then it was the first to receive that dice roll bonus nerf. And then it just kind of stopped getting played after Season 1. People relied on it. So we did give it in the form of an ability back, which is what we've done for other elements, yes. But this monument is a different way to play that mid-game. Can I get to those bosses that are perhaps a little bit lower health across the board when I've got slower elements over there? Really, really fun. Still need your fields in your corner. But the reason why we've got these pages of our monuments is they all reflect the same text. Monuments are free. You just have to own a star tile. They must go on a star tile. Period. End of story. But if you own a star tile in your tier 2, it is a free structure that you are putting down on there. So this goes for all of them. As it stands, the only element left in the game that does not have a monument is the Moon Nation. If you play with me, you know how we feel about Mr. Moon. Moon's going to need some looking at, absolutely. But are you ever moving away from the powerhouse that is their tier 2 set right now? I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, providing some clarification on some advantage cards. You're going to see several cards reading differently. But it brings us to changes to the framework of the game. Let's shake things up just a skosh. We can now construct resource buildings and barracks on any tile we own. No longer do we have to decide one or the other. Why limit ourselves? Was this limiting the aggro nations, or was it actually limiting the turtle nations? That's what we are going to find out. I went ahead and also reduced the cost of all equipment cards by half, because 99% of cases, we were just selling the cards the moment they touch our hand. Right? You can sell them for 5 of food or 5 building materials the moment they touch your hand, or invest in it at turn 5 for a really, really low return in value, right? Equipment is a strange mechanic. Not sure if I'm totally in love with it yet, because if you don't draw them in the first 3 or 4 turns, your return on investment is just next to 0, outside of a few examples. And so selling them is what provided that value in the later stages of the game. But by reducing their cost, maybe they're more accessible for certain nations. We'll see. We'll see. I do think still more than half the time we're going to be selling it. But also in our playtests in the last few weeks, the economic win condition has been 0. Haven't really needed it. That goes for the turtle nations. That goes for the aggro nations. But we do still want it to be viable to some extent. And so let's see what happens. Let's reduce the VPA. It went from 5 to 4, but we cut it from ending a turn at 50-50 to ending a turn at 30-30. Let's see what math plays out in doing so. And lastly, adding a couple more variables here. Let's get a few more landmark tiles out there. The Palestra, spawning free armies for you each turn with a upfront cost of 10 total resources. Reflects the same verbiage used on the equipments. I don't need specifically food or BM. It can be a mix of anything. If you're a food dominant nation, if you're a BM dominant nation, this tile is for you, right? Don't need a blended economy. If I can get to the middle and I have 50 food and no market on the board, I can still get a really, really strong tile. Same for Training Grounds. Training Grounds is going to be one of 2 mechanics to get a dice roll bonus into the Aether conflict at turn 7. 8 total resources. As long as you hold it, you add +1 to both your attack and your defense, and counts in the Aether battle. Automatically putting your nation's defensive fortifications upon purchase. That means if you are Water Tribe, you're just getting your 2 standard defensive fortifications. If you're Blood buying it, which I don't know if you're Blood, I don't really think you're buying it too often, but you're getting one of your castles down automatically. If you're Metal, you're getting your 2 defensive fortifications down automatically, right? So different values there, but that dice roll is going to be really, really critical. How often is it going to be the difference in the Aether Center? Then, our non-soldier mechanic cards are getting a little bit of play, some of them here and there, but let's see if we can make them a little more viable by putting a landmark specifically on there. Looking at you, Nature. Nature is in kind of a weird spot right now. Requires just the most perfect board to make work. You have to be really, really creative. And even if you're playing Nature, are you playing the beast, the animal version of Nature? Not too often. But maybe something like the Circus is going to make it more viable. Your Kerchaks and your Sablors are now half price, and you can spawn them from this tile, not just barracks on your rainforests or barracks on your forests. Very interesting there. We'll see how it plays out. And then with the new victory point mechanic, Palace of Gold is just going to give you 1 victory point every turning of the table. Can you get enough of a bastion around it in order to generate enough to make this the variable that gives you the win? Interesting. I think you only need it for 2 turns in a lot of situations for a lot of these elements. And again, it has that text 10 total resources. And with this, of course, if we've got new landmarks, you got to have a couple new bosses, right? And you can tell what movie we may have watched in the last week by looking at these. But just as Hercules felled this Cyclops in one of his first clashes to make himself a little bit stronger, to show that he's got the stuff, this too. Killing this boss gives you a permanent +1 on all combat rolls, including Aether, for the rest of the game. Then we've got the Erymanthian Boar to reflect our new resource building capability. Let's say I've got all these tiles and I got a lot of barracks everywhere. I'm a more militaristic nation. The Erymanthian Boar puts a resource building on every single one of them. Juicy. Juicy, juicy, juicy. Some more early game bosses there. Guys, it's time to come home. It's time to come back to the temple. I'm excited to get the people back in here. We're going to be tracking these games, tracking the stats, climb the leaderboard, achieve greatness. Come earn your avatar role. Empires of Aether. I love you.